David Spunt is in Wilmington, Delaware, with more. And so all eyes are obviously on Hunter. I'm sure former President Trump is loving this. He's got a little distraction. But what should we expect there?
Well, you know, this is going to be the last hearing before this trial begins with jury selection on June 3rd. Hunter Biden back in his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware today inside this federal court. We expect it to go at least a few hours, at least a couple of hours. Each side's going to kind of argue different motions and different objects to the trial, possibly evidence, what can be admitted before the jury in front of Judge Mary Ellen Noreika. As I said, this jury selection begins June 3rd. We expect it to take about a week and a half for this trial, and this is the case involving the allegations made by Special Counsel David Weiss that Hunter lied on a federal firearms form, Julie, in 2018 when he said that he was not addicted to drugs. And he checked no on that box, and he signed that box. He owned the gun for about 11 days here in Wilmington, Delaware. It was eventually disposed of in front of a popular grocery chain here. And last night, Hunter was down in Washington, D.C. at the state dinner with his father and his family, welcoming the Kenyan president. Now, Hunter has two federal cases that he's facing. This gun case here in Wilmington, Delaware, also that tax case out in Los Angeles. That just got moved back from June 20th to September because Hunter's attorney, Abby Lowell, Julie, a couple days ago, I was in L.A., he was in the courtroom and said there's no way that I can prepare for two trials simultaneously, with this one ending mid-June and that beginning on June 20th. So right now the focus here is this federal firearms trial. Hunter's laptop will be brought up, pictures will be shown, videos will be shown from that laptop, also excerpts of his book will be shown. It's going to be interesting to see, Julie, how they pick a jury, because he's well known here, obviously, as being the president's son, but especially in his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware. And I'll end with this. We can't rule out a potential plea deal, even though one blew up in Hunter Biden's face last year inside this very courthouse with the same judge, Mary Ellen Noreika. It is possible there could be some last-minute agreement between the special counsel and Hunter Biden to avoid the risk of going to trial. Julie?
Leo Terrell is going to join us in a second, but David Spunt, thank you very much for putting that all into perspective. Leo, Fox News contributor and attorney, let's just first talk about whether or not they do take a plea deal, because it's very interesting. We're in a very different scenario right now. The President Biden certainly doesn't want his son to be the center of attention. They're probably loving the fact that Trump has been doing that. They think it is a bad thing for his campaign, the Trump campaign, and a good thing for them. So the last thing they want is for this to drag on closer and closer to the election. Do you see a plea deal coming?
Let me tell you right now, Julie, thank you for that question. Today is critical. Why, Julie? Because there's pretrial motion. What evidence is going to be allowed in the Hunter Biden case? Let me be very clear. This is a slam dunk case for conviction. The evidence of the laptop, the photos, his book, his wife testifying. If the Hunter Biden defense team hears bad news that this evidence is going in, to answer your question, yes, you can expect a plea deal because they cannot win. The evidence is overwhelming. He was using drugs when he filled out that application. He lied.
Yeah. Well, okay, so then let's talk about those lies, because those lies, he originally did get away with it. I mean, he was actually not going to be tried on this gun charge originally. It had a lot of people up in arms, because anyone else who lies about using drugs when they're filling out an application to buy a potentially deadly weapon would end up going to jail. So he never went to jail. He was never quite charged with anything that would serve as any real punishment. And now he's just going to trial, which he might even get out of with a plea deal. What kind of example and precedent does this set, especially now that we're heading into a presidential election and you've got the son of the president who so far has gotten off scot-free?
Well, kudos to this judge, Julie, because this is a judge who said no to that sweetheart plea deal. And I think everyone in this country is going to look at the dual system of justice, what President Trump is going through, ridiculous trial in New York, and whether or not the prosecution in the Hunter Biden case is going to use all the resources to go after Hunter Biden and get a conviction. So I think it's very important to see how strong the prosecution is and how vigorous they fight. David being there in that courthouse, the results of the evidence being admitted will determine if there's going to be a plea deal, because Hunter can't win.
Okay. Let's move over to former President Trump. Jurors for his New York criminal trial are set to return on Tuesday for closing arguments. And this comes as Trump lost 2 appellate court decisions yesterday. The appellate judges denied Trump's request to move the trial out of Manhattan. The court also refused to find Judge Merchan improperly decided not to recuse himself from the case. So this means he will still oversee the trial. And there's one Republican congressman who has called on the judge to dismiss the case. In a letter to Merchan, he says, and I quote, "This prosecution suffers from numerous fatal flaws. A judgment in the Bragg case for either side raises the prospect that state and local prosecutors can take federal law into their own hands." Former FBI Director James Comey giving his prediction for the trial. Watch.
I think there's an overwhelming chance of a conviction, a significant but much smaller chance of a hung jury, and 0 chance of an acquittal. They had a much stronger case than I imagined, and they'd be taking a pass on it because of who the defendant was, and that's something you don't ever want to do as a prosecutor.
Okay, so you know Democrats right now are probably hemming and hawing and complaining about the fact that jury selection is not going to be fair in Wilmington, Delaware, right? Because everybody knows who the president's son is. The same could be said, obviously, here in New York City. Do you believe that the judge should recuse himself?
In this case, in the Trump case, let me think about that.
Yeah.
Yes. But he's not. He's conflicted, Julie. He's a political operative, in my opinion. His daughter works for the Democrat Party. And disgraced Trump hater James Comey, the guy who looked the other way regarding Hillary Clinton server, he has 0 credibility. Even the liberal pundits on the other channels know this is a political attack on Trump to deny him the chance to win the election. It's not going to work. The evidence, if you know what the charges are, please tell me, because we still don't know what the charges are. The worst that can happen to Trump is a hung jury. He should get an acquittal. It will not factor in the election. You saw what happened in New York yesterday in the Bronx.
So when you just heard James Comey say 0% of acquittal, you 100% disagree with him?
I 100% disagree with him because I think there's no evidence of a crime. And the prosecution case is based on a convicted felon and liar, i.e. Michael Cohen. There's no evidence, Julie. And if you know what the charges are, please tell me. And one other point, we still don't know what the jury instructions look like in this case. It is a secretive sort of star chamber operation in New York City against President Trump.
That is a difficult argument to make for the defense, or for for prosecution, rather, because when you put somebody on the stand who is a known liar, it's kind of hard to believe a known liar. Hunter Biden lied about taking drugs when he filled out an application, which is why, obviously, we're going to probably most likely doubt that he's not going to lie again. So what's to say that about any potential future witnesses? And does the Michael Cohen, I guess, background of lies, is that enough for the defense to, in fact, get an acquittal in this case?
I think, let me answer that question very simply. What is the prosecution evidence? Michael Cohen. Forget the Stormy Daniels. That has no relevance to the alleged charges. We still don't know. There's a jury instruction, Julie, regarding Michael Cohen. If you disbelieve what a witness says on one matter, you can disbelieve everything. This guy lied on the witness stand, and he confessed to a new crime. And let me tell you right now, you want to know something about that Hunter Biden case? No way will he get on that witness stand, because everything will come out. Vigorous cross-examination would be a treasure chest of information for the Republicans and for the American public if Hunter Biden gets on that witness stand.
And it really does all hang on Michael Cohen's credibility, because he's the one that allegedly paid off Stormy Daniels. He was the middleman and all of that. You also have to question former friendships, because he was so incredibly loyal to the former President Trump at the time, and he has completely done a 180. And if he's, I don't know, that's something that I think some people might look at as being a bit suspect as well. I'm going to move on to one other thing here. There's a former staffer for Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's office testifying yesterday before a Georgia panel investigating Willis for potentially misusing funds. Now, she claimed she was fired for reporting her bosses were misspending federal grant money. Then she detailed her experience with the Trump prosecutor. Now, listen to this.
I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Willis again. And because the fact that the first time I spoke with her regarding these funds, I was demoted, I decided to record her. And I think it was just because I was fearful of what type of retaliation even bringing it up would have. I'm here today to fight for my reputation, to fight for the youth of Fulton County, but also for the truth.
Meanwhile, Willis has appealed a judge's decision to toss some of the charges in Trump's Georgia election interference case. Now, that judge said those charges did not properly detail the alleged crimes. Trump has also criticized former prosecutor, special prosecutor Nathan Wade, Fani Willis's ex-lover, who stepped down to keep her on the case. And Wade responded to those attacks as well. Let's watch.
There's something special about individuals who say things just for attention or just to get a reaction. My reaction is simply this: thank you.
What? I have no words. Maybe you do.
Yeah, here's my word. That guy has no credibility. He was taken off the case. You know why? Based on the evidence that he gave in court, he lied. Let me tell you about the Fani Willis case. The Fani Willis case she's in trouble because the appellate court has decided to take up whether or not she should remain on the case. And regarding those charges that were dismissed, and she's filing an appeal, Judge McAfee said she can go ahead and refile, go back and get an indictment if she can find charges sufficient enough. Fani Willis' future on this Trump case is in jeopardy. As a lawyer for 30 years, when the appellate court takes up a case, when there's a reverse, when there's been a ruling, she's in trouble, and that's what's going to happen. She's gloating by the fact that she won her primary, but I got news for you. I don't see a future for Fani Willis being the prosecutor in this Trump Georgia case.
Yeah, I mean, and at what point does that get decided?
I'll tell you. The one thing I agree with Nathan Wade, the disgraced lawyer, is when he was asked, will this case go before prior to the election? And he said no. That's the only thing I agree with. The Georgia case will not take place until 2025, 2026, or never.
All right, well, we're going to have to wait and see, but I think you might be right. Leo Terrell, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.